And boom, we are live. Welcome to Tokyo Tonight for this June 19, 2016. Good to see you all. Sorry, I was about 60 seconds late tonight. I don't know, it's been a busy week and weekend. A lot of crazy stuff. Some stuff I can talk about, which I am going to talk about tonight. Some stuff which I can't talk about at the moment, but I guess I might be able to talk about soon. But a good thing, life is interesting, which is how it should always be. Not least of which because of, as you can see from the thumbnail there, I got to host my first ever YouTube happy hour on Friday. And it went pretty well. I'm going to talk about that. There's been a lot of stuff in the news. It is great to see all you awesome people there. In fact, let's just see who's there and say hello. Shall we start that way? We got this all the way over here, so I'm looking very much sideways at the moment. But what we got? We got Icarus 18. Great to see Mr. Cordy Chep. That's some serious trolling going on there. We got Mata Gaijinka, the Sergeant Bilko, back in Sweden at DreamHack. Good to see you, sir. Who else we got here? We got Salidi. We got Ben Duncan. Hey, good to see, man. Tai Nakamura made it awesome. I am doing well. Hey, Stephanie Rawlinson, great, and you did indeed make it. Robert, 1967 Canada. I did say your name. That's what I do. I just spontaneously shout your name. Foghart, awesome to see you. And by the way, Tokyo Digital Crew members, I've been really quiet lately. There's been a good excuse. I will actually explain to you guys a little bit later, but yes, I should be more or less set. Although I'm still going to be busy a little bit now, but it's good. And Phoenix 787, good to see you, sir, and thank you for coming to the party the other day, the YouTube event. That was pretty good. I thought it was. I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. In fact, feel free to complain in the comments. Actually, this is part of what I want to do. She has an eye patch. I didn't know that. I don't know what she does. I see what you did there. Hafid Belk, good to see you indeed. And Gabe B, also good morning to you, wherever you are in the world. Vero-chan, excellent, great to see you. I like the name Vero-chan. It's been good to see you. So look, and if anyone else wants their name shouted out, type it in now, because that's what I'm going to do. So, yes, I always say I don't have very many topics for tonight, and tonight I don't have very many topics, but we'll see. I just end up always taking up the hour. I hope you guys are all really well anyway. So, because I put all the happy hour stuff first into the magazine, it means it'll come out last, so we'll get to that perhaps at the end. Oh man, Tai Nakamura, first I had to write in a long time, so no worries at all. And that's what, to me this is joy. This is something I do when or if I can. I try to do it regularly, obviously, it's part of the thing with it, but at the same time, this is something that I do for fun. I just remembered something else which I mean to talk about tonight. Well, I think I'll get to that at the end anyway. But yeah. Anyway, one good thing about being in Google was I got to also go out and hang out with the beautiful people from Google itself, from YouTube itself. Actually, had some really good conversations with them over the last few days as well, and some good insights, which I think I might try to pass on some of the wisdom I think that we shared with one another. I mean, a lot from them. I think I gave my own little bits back. But yes, indeed. Also, very good to see Jim Gates has made it, as well as Bradley Ford and El Camedo. Good to see you, Musashi Mark. Hello, Musashi Mark, and Caroline Van Woostenderborg. Good to see you, and Namste. Awesome to see you as well. And Butter, yeah, we're going to talk about Butter. I bring all the hard-hitting topics. I thought about I could put in Orlando or the Tokyo governor resigning, or no. Butter is top of my agenda. So Barringer, good to see you as well. We're throwing out some ulcers there. That's pretty cool. Okay, there's actually just a question tonight. Someone said that they're living, that they are working in Minato-ku. Minato-ku is one of the ku, the suffix for ward. There are 23 wards in Tokyo, and Minato-ku is where all the rich foreigners, it's where all the American, supermodels and expats sort of live. It's where Roppongi is. So basically everyone with the money to buy like a big expensive apartment and near to a place where they can just go out and randomly have sex after work, live in Minato-ku, and as a result Minato-ku is very expensive. So they were asking where's a good place to live. When I pass that on, not because I don't know where the cheap train stations are. I've lived here for 20 years. I threw it out because this person is coming and teaching in Tokyo, and I'm assuming they don't probably have a lot of the key money or a hoshonin or a guarantor or anything like that. So they would struggle to probably rent a regular apartment right away. So I was thinking more about, in terms of affordable accommodation centrally, there are these gaijin houses that are there, which a lot of new arrivals and teachers use, like Sakura House, and they're not cheap, but they're good enough, and they're a good place where you can go and save up some money, and they're pretty central. If you want to live somewhere cheap, you got to live like 90 minutes away. The good thing about this map from Tokyo Cheapo, the best response I got was from Tokyo Cheapo, where they actually provided some useful information. This is really cool. This is a map of Tokyo, which I guess you could overlay. In fact, if you go on the link, it overlays with Google Maps, I believe, and it actually shows like by area, sort of where are more expensive and where are not. And there's various reasons why certain neighborhoods are cheaper and so on. Some are high risk for flooding or earthquakes, or the Japanese are very big on their hazard maps. Some neighborhoods are just not very well connected to trains and so on. But yeah, this is actually quite a nice tool. But also, part of the purpose of throwing that out there was if there are people who know about, sort of gaijin accommodation, shared houses, stuff like that, which is the cheapest way probably if you want to live in the city and you don't have like all the key money and stuff saved up, which is crazy. For those of you who don't know, to rent an apartment off the blocks in Tokyo, if you're a foreigner, generally they'll charge 2 months rent bond. Well, bond everyone has to pay, and it'll be about 2 months. But they'll also generally make you pay for 2 months key money as well as a 1.5 month real estate fee. All fees together, you got to pay like 6 months worth of rent just in upfront expenses before you can even move. It takes a lot of money, and on top of that, rents are high in some neighborhoods. And if you live in a high rent neighborhood, I lived in a really good central neighborhood close to Shinjuku called Nakano Shinbashi many years ago, my first few years in Japan. And it's a really old-fashioned neighborhood, kind of run down, but I could walk to Shinjuku Station from it, and I paid like, I was living there 2 people and paying like 90,000 yen, which is super cheap, for that location. There are little places like that around Tokyo that are kind of affordable. But anyway, that is what that is about. That's kind of a cool map, and Tokyo Cheapo are rocking it again. I've got another topic from them, the Tokyo Walking Subway map, which I'm also going to introduce later today. Tokyo Cheapo are awesome. You should totally add them to your bookmarks or your RSS feeds or whatever, if you're interested in that stuff. Because they are really, they work very hard. And so among their writers, Texan in Tokyo was one of their original writers, just for an idea of the quality of writers that they have. Actually mind-blowing. Anyway, they're really cool and they're good guys. They've been on 2.5 Oyajis. I've been to, I can vouch for the guy who made this map, or who made the subway map, as a Kiwi guy. So, he's good and it's reliable. Anyway. And Gabe B, well, yes, indeed, it's an exercise of a lot of, finding an apartment in Japan is an exercise of a lot of pain and a lot of front-up money, which is why the best way generally to start is a gaijin house, I would say, where, I didn't do that myself, but I had a girlfriend and so on, that I could go and stay with at the time when I arrived. But that's a good place where you can kind of get your feet and start to save money to be able to get your own apartment eventually. Shibuya, well, yeah, see, so Phoenix, Shibuya, I don't know, I'd throw, you can, in terms of affordable parts of Shibuya, if you live in the red light district part, Dogenzaka, I know that there are some affordable rents in there, plus you get, like, prostitutes all around you, which is kind of exciting for some people. I know a girl who actually lived in Dogenzaka, a Japanese lady. She said it was kind of interesting. I used to walk through Dogenzaka on the way home, but generally, Shibuya, anything that's affordable around there is literally like a prison cell. I wouldn't recommend Shibuya generally to anybody, actually, although there are some really cool neighborhoods. I lived in a neighborhood called Komamoto Naimai, where there were a lot of students, and it was like 25 minutes walk from Shibuya, and it was expensive but affordable, on a reasonable income. So there are options, but for somebody, so there you go. So Phoenix lives in the red light district of Shibuya. You have to distinguish between Dogenzaka and the rest of Shibuya, because the rest of Shibuya is like Beverly Hills. You live in the well, yes, that's right, and that is as cheap as it gets, Phoenix, even though it's pricey. So don't recommend Shibuya to someone who just got off the boat, unless they're shitload rich, which, I don't know, maybe. So that's what I just said anyway. But yeah, don't recommend that to someone who just got here. Hey, live in Shibuya. No, because they've got to have a crap load of money with them. They've got to bring a whole suitcase of cash pretty much to be able to move in there into a really crappy small apartment in a red light district with, drug users and hookers. But it's fun, So anyway, onwards. This is from the party. I just retweeted that. I'll get back to that. I watched this the other day. I don't know. I guess this is kind of quasi-generational. A lot of you guys, like who were kids in the 90s and stuff, maybe the Star Wars figure craze maybe passed you by a little bit. But I grew up like with this whole Star Wars toy craze, really being on top. Plus, I lived in Singapore where the currency used to be super cheap. And this is a documentary about Kenner and the whole thing of how they got the rights to make the Star Wars toys, how they developed them and everything. My mum watched this in Australia and she said, "Dude, you totally watch this." She didn't actually call me dude. My mum doesn't call me dude, but in my mind, my family, we all call each other dude. So I rented this on iTunes, and I don't know if you're into Star Wars figures. I'm not really like into Star Wars figures, but I had like a lot of them as a kid, and it was like, for me, this was like the only toys I ever had growing up were Star Wars toys. And now my son has Star Wars toys, which he loves as well. So it is really cool. This was just a really good documentary. So if that sort of thing rocks your boat, I recommend it. It's called Plastic Galaxy. It's all Japanese there because I forwarded the link from the Japanese iTunes site, which is what I got downloaded it from. It's just got subtitles on the Japanese side, so you can still watch it. Yeah, that was really, really good. Anyway, if that is your thing. This person, Jun Hongo. Jun Hongo is an idiot. Sorry, Jun Hongo. Don't mean to say it, but house parties could be big in Japan if people knew how to throw them. Yeah, so I saw a lot of passive-aggressive responses, which I'm going to throw in my passive-aggressive response to this as well. Wildfire 777, your town used to have a Beverly Hill Love Hotel. That's nice. That's extra classy. I like that. And I won't ask how you knew so well, how you memorized all the Love Hotel names like that. Although, congratulations. Stephanie Rollinson, Spaceballs. Spaceballs had moments. It had moments. I really like the idea and the potential of Spaceballs. I'm just trying to think. There were some pretty good moments in Spaceballs, although they're not coming straight to me anyway. But yes, indeed. So anyway, I'm distracted by the comments. House parties could be big in Japan if people knew how to throw them. Well, again, I don't know who Jun Hongo hangs out with. They work for the Wall Street Journal. I imagine they're hanging out with expats in very nicely large, spacious, furnished apartments. People do house parties in Japan. I've done a couple, like when I was living in crappy small apartments. But it's pretty rare, and it's for two reasons. One, people's apartments are generally kind of shitholes that they just don't want to, and people make such a big deal about having to tidy up when people come over that it makes it a lot of pressure when people come over. And they're kind of small, and literally, like, it can be a good thing when the only place to sit down in your apartment is on the bed, because you've just got a room and a bed and a door and a shower and a toilet, and a washing machine and a fridge, and that's all that I had in the room. So, it's like, oh, gee, sorry, girl that I brought back from Roppongi, you have to sit down on the bed. Nothing can't be helped. But when you have a house party, it can be weird when it's like your boss, and you really don't want to do anything. So you've got that. Plus, if you go into bigger apartments, then you've got the other problem that people live. Japanese aren't very big on insulation. It's incredible to me in a place with such ups and downs of temperatures, that snow in winter and scorching, above Australia heat in summertime. Japanese buildings don't insulate the walls. They don't have that stuff, which means that sound just goes through, and the whole Japanese social conventions about like not disturbing other people. I get like warnings and range messages during this show from me talking like this because it's 11 o'clock at night and my wife is worried that I'm disturbing the neighbors, so I am always consciously trying to keep my voice down a bit. Victor's living in a standalone house, so he can be a little bit more rowdy, but it's Phoenix 787. I've been to a house party at my boss's house, my senpai's house, and I've had senpais and co-workers come to my apartment when I was working. But when I came in, I remember they were drinking in Kashiwa, where I was living, and they wanted to see where I lived, and I was like, yeah, sure, come in. And they looked at I must admit, because I'm tall, that was my excuse, that I had a double bed that took up like 3/4 of the room. And they looked at me and they said, well, where do you eat? I'm like, on the bed. I was like, dude, you shouldn't eat on the bed. I was like, I do everything on the bed. They seemed a bit sufficiently creeped out by that to go. Coming back to why they don't do house parties in Japan, although, you know, mine's a bit of a special case perhaps. You know, the whole thing about causing trouble, meiwaku for other people, the noise, the complaints, the sort of self-consciousness. No, and plus Tokyo is like the best place in the world, Tokyo specifically, to go out and to have drinks and meet people. I mean, unless you're like it's really only really super poor, like IT workers. Renee Haltman, good to see you. I saw your boom there, thank you for that. You know, it's really only if you're super poor, or you're like an oppressed IT worker like I used to be, that you would actually like buy a bunch of sours, you know, and go to someone's house for a house party. Or if you have ulterior motives, in which case it's very effective. But you know, Japanese, it's not, even if you've got a big apartment and it's actually good for house parties, it's really hard to do because people complain. And I've actually DJ'd house parties run by expats who didn't give a shit. And you know, the police come in almost every time. Neighbors will call the police on you if you're making noise like after 10 o'clock. And some of the best parties I've ever thrown were like raided by the police for noise. Everyone was like super well behaved. No one was doing anything illegal, which you know might surprise some people. In Japan, house parties are actually surprisingly well behaved, but police would still come in. And yeah, I was a DJ, so I was kind of like to pretend I was keeping the sound down and stuff like that. I've done that a couple of times, and that was kind of cool. But anyway, no, house parties, they don't work in Japan. They just don't, because the accommodations aren't really suitable for that kind of behavior. But foreigners do them, and I tell you that when you have buildings that say they don't take foreigners, the reasons that the landlords will cite is they are noisy. They don't follow the rules about parties and having people over and stuff like that. They have house parties all the time with all the gaijin friends, and they make lots of noise, and the landlords, when they leave, they say, I'm not going to have any more foreigners. They ruin it for other people. And half the time the dicks who do that don't even realize that that's what they've done. So, you know, no, please, Jun Hongo, don't be talking about Japanese need to be taught how to party in their houses, because they don't. And if you do it and you're like a kikoku shijo or something, seriously, you're just going to ruin it, like for other for foreigners for a start. And no, there are reasons for it, and you should just go out. Yeah, Phoenix, you shouldn't. He has too many women over. Well, maybe you should invite some dudes over. I don't know, whatever gets you going. I mean, well, what does that mean? Well, you live in Dogen-saka. I mean, you practically just have to, like, wave a dollar bill out the window. So who knows? It's understandable. Maybe you need to move to, like, Sugamo or someplace with, like, older ladies, provided that's not your thing, of course. So anyway, this is a story I know that everybody came here for tonight. Hey, I love house parties as well. New Zealand is like all that you have, but that's because there's nowhere to go out to. Tokyo is like, it's everywhere is a place to go out to, so it's just different. Butter. So apparently, here's the great news. They found a huge chunk of butter in a bog in Ireland, and apparently it can still be eaten. And Japan has a butter shortage, so I've like been mailing them and telephoning them, asking them to send it straight over to Japan, because we need that shit. We do. And I'm not choosy anymore. I don't care. I send that thing over here and let me look after it. I mean, seriously. I mean, it's probably, you know, it's butter. It must be sterile, right? 2,000 years, all the germs would probably have died of old age. That's what I figure. Anyway, so there it is. Sorry, Zach. I don't mean to give you a hard time. But seriously, you put it in the comments, I have too many women coming to my apartment. You're going to get trolled, I'm sorry. Even if it's true, I mean, seriously. So anyway, yes, butter, help me out here. Can someone, I mean, if we could only send, I would eat Irish bog butter. Well, I'd be interested to know what it tastes like. I mean, I wondered did one of the scientists who said it's still edible, would they actually try it? And did they die? And if they died, I won't try it. It's one of my philosophies on life. If someone ate something and they died from it, don't eat it. It's worked for me so far. Random kind of stuff. This is well, the top one's the bottom one's kind of big. A lot of people have been ripping on the idea that Microsoft acquired LinkedIn for $26 billion. I think Microsoft is smart. I think they're really smart. I think that was a really, even for that money, I think that was a really smart deal. And I think actually, since they got rid of, what's his face, this witty basketball team owner, as a CEO, and they've got this new guy, Ayendra, whatever his name is, they're doing some really smart shit over there. Actually, the fact that they've come out with the HoloLens thing, that they're skipping the whole VR thing that Microsoft and everyone else is focusing, that Facebook and everyone else is focusing on, and they're going straight to AR. Some of the applications are they bought Minecraft, they bought all these sort of things, and yes, when it's for desperate times, make it 2,000-year-old butter times. That's what I always say, Travis Moore. I think LinkedIn, if you're going to buy a social network that's kind of looking to be bought, there's really only two. There's Twitter and LinkedIn, and Twitter's cool, and I want Twitter to continue to survive and exist because I really love it. But as something to make money back on, or as an investment, or something which can actually be leveraged, like as a business application, LinkedIn is a really, really smart acquisition. So yes, no, I'm actually thinking that's really good. But anyway, forget about that, because I wanted to show you this. This is another one by Tokyo Cheapo. Again, add this thing to your bookmarks. Solidi, that is funny. Thank you. You gave me a chuckle there. I saw that one. There was this map which was generated by some very cool person in the UK recently, of the British subway map, with the London subway tube map, with walking distances between subway stations. And the idea being, people get so used to using subways that they just assume that any two places that you travel between on subways just must be too far to walk. And it's worth remembering, I always use as a rule of thumb that generally, if you want to walk if you want to travel one station in distance, you can generally walk. They're generally spaced out evenly all over Tokyo, about 1 kilometer apart, which means about 10 minutes walk. And if you look at this, let's see, that actually supports my theory that it's about 10 minutes. Maybe a little bit higher, but I think the average, particularly around the centers, it's around 10. So if you think about it, you walk to the station, you go down the stairs, you go into the ticket things, you wait for the train, you get on the train, you get off the train, you go through the ticket gates, you go out of the station, you find the right exit. You're going to spend 10 minutes if you're just walking in and out. You can do it for free by walking. Plus, Tokyo is such a compact city, you can forget it because of the subway system. Tokyo is actually flat. There's like no hills, at least not in the central part, and it's actually really compact. And the most interesting and fun things about Tokyo are those places that are in between the stations, in my experience. So I can't recommend walking in Tokyo enough. And the fact that Greg, I believe, from Tokyo Cheapo, used Google Maps and just mapped out, if you wanted to walk from this station to this station, that would take, from, so let's have a look, we've got at the top there, from Ueno Okachimachi to, Suehirocho, he's got like 8 minutes there, or Ueno Hirokoji to Suehirocho, 8 minutes. So I guess he did this one by one and just entered it all for however, 200 stations or whatever. It must have taken a bit of time. But, you can actually, if you're prepared to walk for 10 minutes, you can go almost any station, and if you're willing to walk for 25 minutes, you can have a really nice walk, and you can walk pretty much 2 or 3 stations. Plus, of course, the other thing is that while the purpose of this map is to remind people that maybe you don't need to use a subway for this short trip, but the other thing is this only shows the distances actually that go along train lines. Sometimes you'll have train stations which are not connected directly, and you'll have to go to one station and then go across and then come back. But if you actually walk, it's really close. And that's the other thing that you realize really quickly, is that particularly with Google Maps, Google Maps is fantastic for this. Just for realizing Tokyo is a really walkable city, and I would always, whenever you plan to go somewhere, if you don't know the geography, check how long it takes to walk first, because you might just have a really nice walk. And like I said, Tokyo is an awesome city to walk around in. And that said, the train system is of course awesome, and if you feel like using a train, you can get anywhere in Tokyo on a train. You can be totally lost and just walk in any direction for seriously, if you walk for 10 minutes, or generally 5 to 10 minutes, you're guaranteed to hit a train station, which is also nice about Tokyo. It's really hard to get into trouble like that. So this is excellent. I really think that is really, really cool by Tokyo Cheapo. So thumbs up for you guys. What else we got here? We have episode 4 of The Joy of Japanese Business. This is by Ahmed Boltar, I believe, who asked the topic for a topic on senpais and kohais. It's a great topic, and we talked about this for a bit, and it was a good video, so go check it. The theme music for this was by Joshua Matthews, Hero, a track which I also quite like. The theme music and outro music for this every week is by a member of the Tokyo Digital crew with the tracks that I like the best, plus I made a complete playlist of all the music tracks which I picked out for the theme music on this. They make some really good stuff, and it's all free to use for you guys. So if you like it, you can use it on your own videos, so go and check all that stuff. Mr. Korichep walking around in China. I must admit, well, Shanghai wasn't so bad. Shanghai's on the coast, it gets breezes which clear everything up. Beijing apparently is pretty rough, I've never been there. Dalian, yeah, it wasn't good. It wasn't good. You know, you don't die, but you just realize that you are taking time off your life expectancy. That's the problem there. Wildfire 777, it's probably inevitable that Osaka would have a less. I mean, they've only got Tokyo. Tokyo's accessed every day by like 25 million people. Osaka's only accessed by 3 million. You know, and remember, Osaka isn't the second biggest city in Japan. It's the third. Yokohama is the second. And Yokohama is only on the fringes of the Tokyo subway maps. So that's kind of natural. But, you know, and Osaka is a great city, actually, if you want something a little bit more friendly than Tokyo, perhaps. But yeah, you wouldn't die of smoke inhalation just walking around, going for a walk. You do just have an ongoing sense, however, that it's not good for you, in my experience of the very limited places I've been to in China. Lysander 45, that reminds you were in China, right? Or you've been in China. Or you're moving to Beijing. Holy crap. Well, maybe it's not as bad as I think, but I've heard that Beijing on its bad days can get pretty tough. I'll tell you, Osaka, Tokyo is a great city to walk. Osaka, I see everyone saying is a good city to walk. Nagoya is a terrible city to walk. Nagoya is a car town. Nagoya is basically where Toyotas come from. They come from a little bit in the countryside from Nagoya, but Nagoya is basically propped up by, you know, Toyota or Toyota related industries, Fuji Heavy related industries, yeah, it's really spread out. It's a driving town. It looks nice. It's not as dense as Tokyo, but I remember I saw one train station loop, and so I thought I'd go for a walk, and it was just one really long, really boring walk. I see a question there with my name highlighted by Triple J Jinx Journey to Japan. One of your Japanese friends said that there's Chinese people impersonating monks and taking money from foreigners. Have I heard about any of that, Hikosaemon? No, I have not. There are always rumors about, well, particularly aimed at Chinese people, about that they are used for burglaries and for, you know, yakuza fence goods and so on, and that they're involved in various criminal scams. There again, whenever I hear about these scams being caught and arrested and it's announced on the news, sometimes you can tell by the names that they have got caught Chinese people mixed up in them. No question, there are Chinese gangsters and people who are, you know, coming here and willing to do anything to make some money, but generally speaking, in spite of all the rumors that it's all Koreans and Chinese that do that stuff, it's pretty much 99% of the time it's Japanese people that, you know, get caught. And I've never, well, that said, I mean, I wouldn't know about the thing about taking money from foreigners. I've never given money to monks before either, at least not except in family related stuff where we knew what they were. I would just say generally to everyone here, don't take money, don't give money to monks ever, seriously. The monks in Japan, let me just tell you about the monks in Japan. And I've paid money to monks because, you know, we have family, you know, cemeteries and stuff like that you do this once a year. You know, monks in Japan are not what you think of as monks. You know, they take the money from the donations. It's all sort of tax-free. Most of the richest kids I knew back in New Zealand who were sent over from Japan were the children of monks. They and their fathers, you know, they're heavy drinking, kabakura, you know, womanizing. This is Buddhism, not Christianity. Sex isn't a sin in Buddhism per se. You know, they do have this kind of austerity and these kind of values, and they look like monks, like as we understand them, but they're not, and they don't need the money. I've never met a monk that needs a donation for anything, and if they say that they're collecting for something, again, there are legitimate ways and NGOs that do that. That would just be dodgy to me. I've never in 20 years in Tokyo run across a legitimate reason to give anything to a monk I didn't know. And just generally speaking, no, I mean, you know, I'm cool with the Buddhists, but seriously, don't give money to monks ever. Don't get. Yes, Mr. Korichep, it's a good way to make a lot of money to be a monk. They make serious money. Seriously, most of those monks standing in front of the station with the big hats and so on, and, you know, doing like various, you know, ceremonies. Sometimes if someone's died, the family will pay a monk to stand in front of the train station holding the name of the deceased for a week, like, you know, and it does something with the spirit or something like that. That guy looks very austere, but he drives to and from in a tinted window Mercedes-Benz, that he got tax-free. They don't need your handouts. And if someone is saying that monks in Ueno, well, that's kind of disappointing to hear that. But yes, that's right. If you see a monk in Japan, do not give them money. They're like feeding pigeons. Seriously, they could very well be scamsters. And nationality doesn't matter, but they don't need the money. Lovely people, Buddhists. Nothing against Buddhists. My family, I've got family who are Buddhists here in Japan. I pay monks like as a family thing, but seriously, maybe there is a scam. Maybe there are scams going on where they are taking money or saying, don't do that. No, seriously, it's like your own personal priest, basically, right? You don't pay random priests money. Well, maybe some people do, but not in Japan. Don't do that. What else we got? Oh no, this is I actually met one of the channels that came along to the happy hour, who was quite lovely, and she put up a video tonight actually about the happy hour event. There's a chick, Nagasaki, half vegan girl, and she makes videos about being a vegan in Japan. This is there's all these things. I mean, even Victor, I think, was or is a vegan. Eric Surf 6 is talking about how great it is to be a vegan, and Charles is talking about how great it is to be a vegan. And I had some delicious pork chops and a hamburger for lunch today, and I don't regret it, and I'm not sorry. I'm not. And I stopped doing it. In Japanese food is great because it mixes all the stuff in. But if you want to be a vegan, it is kind of tough. But you can achieve it. And there is a big market in blogs. There's a big whole genre of YouTube videos on vegan lifestyle stuff. And I met someone who's doing this on being a vegan in Japan, and she was lovely. So let me find her tweet, which I think I retweeted earlier today. In fact, probably the best way is if I go to my recent tweets. And I show you here. So Ella's Secret is the name of her. Twitter account. And that is her. And she's quite nice, anyway. And she talks about vegan stuff, if you're into that. Anyway, gaijinpot.com has also been doing blogs on this. Everyone's talking about it. She's a chick, Japanese hafu, but I believe she's not a half vegan. She's actually fully vegan. I'm kind of a half vegan. I generally have half vegetables and half meat on any meal. She's probably not going to appreciate that joke. Ella was pretty cool. Anyway, and indeed, Phoenix, well, you were there. You met everybody, and there weren't that many people. We'll get to that. But yes, indeed. Ella's Secret. Anyway, I'll type it in the comments. Everyone, what is her YouTube channel name again? I should actually check that. And it's playing here at the moment. If I go here, her YouTube channel name is... let me put that there and type it into the comments. I also appreciate she's like the first person who put up, or maybe second person who put up a video about the event. And it's the same thing. It's Ella's Secret. Boom. That is her channel name. And she's nice if you're into the vegan stuff. Even if you're not into the vegan stuff, it is just good for healthy food. And she seems really ganky in the video. Like maybe maybe I should try it, but no, I'm not going to. What else we got? Twitter invests in SoundCloud. Glad to hear that because I'm always worried about SoundCloud going out of business. Watami, this guy's kind of funny. This is kind of a political news story. Everyone knows that the Tokyo governor resigned. I put an article in after the summary explaining the whole story behind that. But now, of course, the question is who is going to be the new governor of Tokyo? And all the freaks have come out of the woodwork, including this guy. This guy owns a chain of restaurants called Watami Restaurants. However, he said to change the name of the restaurants to Goham. Because the Watami name was so tainted by the fact that he has a strong work ethic culture in his business, and multiple people apparently who worked in his restaurants died from claimed overwork, and when the families tried to seek compensation for their daughters and sons who are restaurant managers who were worked to death for minimum wage working in restaurants. Robert, 1967 Canada, can't be helped. It wasn't. It wasn't my choice. So he on top of like talking about how he makes people work super hard and pushes their limits, They also contested, which is kind of unspeakable in Japan. They actually refused to pay compensation and actually went all the way through the court system to the appeal court and lost, and had to pay compensation for working these people to death. He was on the LDP party list, so he's actually a member of parliament now. He wasn't elected directly, but LDP thought he's a successful businessman. Let's put him on our list of people that if we get enough party votes, we'll put him into parliament, and they got enough votes that he is in parliament. Even though the fact that he was on the list was drawing a lot of very negative attention from the Japanese internet that really likes to sort of beat up on this guy as being like a black company boss. Well, he's announced that he's interested in going for the nomination, or running to be the new Tokyo governor. Among the list of other freaks that are going for the role. This one's kind of interesting though, because I mean, if you're the sort of person that thinks that that bureaucrats don't work hard enough, or that the Tokyo government is taking our tax dollars and laughing in our faces and not doing anything with it and kicking back, well, here's your man. He's gonna make them all work to death on minimum wage, which could, if you're kind of anti-bureaucracy, if you're kind of like get the whip out, he might be the right person for that role. But why this guy's seeking public office for anything is kind of a mystery. And there he is. There is the guy who just resigned as the governor of Tokyo. I had a couple of debates on Twitter about this the other day. This is a totally typical normal scandal in Japan. He is resigning. I guess he's been so much on TV. He's been on, every time you turn on the TV, there's been stories about what a terrible person this guy is. And so everybody's got it made out. I even had Hikosaemon messaging me talking about how, why doesn't this guy quit? Everyone hates him. He's obviously like the worst guy ever. It's unbelievable. And he kind of got caught, doing stuff he shouldn't. But here's the thing about this. Japanese scandals are never spontaneous, or at least as spontaneous as they appear. And this one certainly is absolutely a normal. You think of every political resignation or every political scandal that's ever happened in Japan, and for the last, since I've been here, this is absolutely normal. So the pattern is that someone will do something that will draw attention to themselves and draw a lot of negative attention. And when that happens, the thing is, you can assume almost every politician in Japan is dirty. I mean, safely. And actually, remember what this guy got caught on was basically questionable use of $40,000 worth of public funds, for questionable personal use, like taking vacations, using, political expense money. Remember when they did this audit of the British Parliament, and they found like every member of the British Parliament just about was guilty of this on amounts on the same scale and even more. And again, if you go through any politician's receipts, you're going to find this kind of stuff. And I'm sure 100% local government governors and central government. Remember, this guy was a government minister. He was a national politician for years, and he probably spent money the same the whole time. So while the story in the media is that 2 months ago, the Shukan Bunshu, one of the weekly tabloid magazines, came out with a story where they caught all of these guys. They investigated and they found and they catalogued all of these questionable cases of what looks like abuse of public funds, where he took a family vacation to an onsen in Chiba, and he claims because he made one political phone call there that he could legitimately use political donations from that. And everyone says, well, it looks like it looks like he misused or embezzled public funds and tax, political funds. And it kind of did, and it kind of was inappropriate. But at the end of the day, the story didn't start with the Bunshu story getting released a few weeks ago. And from that moment on, there's just been this tidal wave of condemnation. He's been interrogated, every day in front of the parliament, and he's handled it really badly, and he looks bad. But the whole media is on this thing where everyone's focused on just basically beating this guy till he resigns. And he resigned. It worked. And this is what always happens. But it's not what happened from the release of the article. I mean, that's half of it. But the other half is that, so why did he get picked out for investigation? This was coming from over a year ago when he was elected Tokyo governor. There were a few things. One, he's really, really disliked by a lot of members of the LDP. He was kind of a very independent guy within the LDP party. He was also married. He's been remarried like 3 or 4 times. He's got like 5 kids. He's been like married like 3 or 4 times, and each marriage was the result of an affair where he had a divorce and went onwards and so on. So he's got a lot of very, very bitter ex-wives, and he owes a lot of alimony. The former governor, Shintaro Ishihara, who, by the way, is rumored to actually, there are much worse scandals and much higher value scandals around Shintaro, but he never got in trouble because, frankly, the media was probably too scared of him. But he was joking that maybe this guy just was embezzling the money because he has to pay so much alimony. One of the women that he kind of, didn't treat so well was Satsuki Katayama, who's one of the policy think tank members, basically in the Abe faction, one of the really far right-wing members surrounding the cabinet and a very close confidant of Abe himself in the LDP. And she publicly, like when he announced he was resigning from Parliament and was going to run for Tokyo governor, she publicly and the LDP backed him, and he asked the LDP to get an endorsement from his ex-wife there. He did it indirectly, and the wife called a press conference and called him scum and cheap. I mean, it was just like everyone kind of said we shouldn't make her be talking at all about this. They realized a little bit too late. He's burnt a lot of bridges along the way. He's made a lot of enemies, even among people who should be his friends. He beat Tamogami, the extreme right-wing candidate for Tokyo, and a bunch of other people. And the thing is, although he won, because frankly there was no one else really qualified in the election to win the role, that's not from people liking him, and I think it was a pretty low turnout, but he got the role. Immediately after that, however, he took a trip to Korea at a time when Japan's relations with Korea were like at a historic low, and Abe wasn't able to get a meeting with Park, and basically Park said, "Hey, I'll meet with the Tokyo governor. I'm not going to meet with Abe, but I'll meet with him." And he went and met with Park and said, he offered to play a national diplomatic role where he went over and said, "Oh yeah, Japan was so terrible to Korea. We're really sorry about that. We really want to establish relations again." The whole Japanese right-wing internet went crazy angry at this guy. What are you doing going over there apologizing to Korea? We finally have them off our backs ignoring us. Why are you going over there being so nice? And he also promised while he was in Korea that he would look after Korean residents of Tokyo. And when he got back, I believe he increased or added public funding to private Korean schools for North Koreans and South Koreans in Tokyo, which also got the right-wingers crazy. And so basically, between all of the gossips around his terrible personal life, and the fact that all the right-wingers got crazy angry at him for being seen as kind of being a Zainichi lover, if you like, someone who was actually, frankly, just being totally reasonable and nice, but just really upset a lot of the far right-wing people. And this is like 12 months ago. You knew that from that time onwards, there was going to be like a bounty on whichever tabloid magazine could get the biggest cache of dirt on this guy, to release a magazine on, an expose of how dirty he is and try to force him to resign. And when this came out, this is something everyone wanted to read. It was great business for the tabloid magazine. And he had no political allies in his own party or outside. I mean, they didn't rush to defend him, the LDP. They didn't condemn him right away like the other parties did. But Abe himself, in the end, the story is that Abe delivered a message that, dude, you got to resign. When the scandal went on too long and it was just too embarrassing having these kind of personal funds coming out, now how he was kind of misspending these funds every day, which, by the way, he should have known he was going to be targeted by this, and he didn't hold back at all. He was still, obviously wasting the money. The funniest thing about this was that this guy, he actually called it, when this was released, he said, "I'm going to call an independent investigatory commission into myself, which I'm going to pay for with my own money. I'm going to hire 3 lawyers, and I'm going to have them investigate me." So he actually paid for the commission to investigate himself, which was completely ridiculous. And this was part of the bullshit that was called on him when he was interrogated by the Tokyo Parliament. And the findings of the Bengoshi was that all of the cases of abused spending were, quote, inappropriate, but technically not illegal. He didn't actually technically break any laws, but they were clearly inappropriate spending. He was using public funds for buying art on Yahoo auctions. He was, taking personal onsen vacations. He was driving cars on personal trips and so on. Just all this sort of stuff. So he used this expression, and the lawyers that he paid for used this expression that, hey, I didn't do anything illegal. It was just inappropriate. That's all. which comes to another thing, which I think is just after this, and there it is. After he resigned, he refused to give interviews anymore. So Fuji TV, which is kind of famous as being one of the more tabloidy TV networks, when they couldn't get him for an interview, they went after his family. They started chasing down his family members, harassing them for interviews. Just kind of dirtbag, bottom of the barrel reporter type stuff. And Masazoya was rightly so outraged that they would start harassing his family for interviews. And he said, he put out a message, Fuji TV, you guys have gone after chasing after my children, I'll never forgive you. To which a less than sympathetic Ni-chan, well, some people on Ni-chan said, well, it's his family, it's his kids, geez, leave them out of it, the guy's a scumbag, but the kids have it tough enough. Or the first thing is, well, also the internet generally hates Fuji TV, so they call it scum versus scum. Kuzo is the word for scum. And it's cut to Nishio and so on, but this is the comment number 20. Well, it's inappropriate, but technically it's not illegal, so I think they're safe. And everyone keeps continuing, yes, harassing his children, completely inappropriate, but technically not illegal. I shouldn't read this, it's really not good for my brain, but it is funny. And you see this, and you realize Japanese are actually capable of having quite a witty and cynical sense of humor about this. That was terrible. But anyway, who was a bad influence on me? And here's the thing. Here's the whole thing on this. And Wildfire 777, as you say, morally corrupt. He's a bad guy. I never liked him. I don't like him. But the point is, whenever you see a scandal like this happening, understand these things all happen for a reason. At any time, I could snap my fingers and randomly pick any politician in Japan, and if a tabloid focused on them, you would get the same scandal and the same thing about them 6 months later. So the point is, these scandals only happen when there's a green light on them, and that's what's super interesting about Japanese politics. They're deep. So it's always interesting understanding not just what's going on and the dumb stuff that they did. You can go with the rage mob, and that's what always happens, and it always ends up in a resignation, which it did this time as well. He didn't survive it. But it's always interesting just to understand what's going on in the background to this and how this really started. So anyway, that's what that is. Hey, SOGLF. I don't know, what am I talking about? I ask myself that every day. I don't always have the answer. I'm sorry about that. Live streaming, Periscope and Facebook are doing it. YouTube is bringing it soon, and that means that we are going to have things like a case of someone getting shot and murdered while streaming themselves. That's kind of freaky, and Facebook left the video up, which also surprises me a little bit. They said it's kind of newsworthy, which I guess it is. Yes. And don't know. I live in Japan. I can't run for politics here, so all I can do is just complain about it, and I'm having fun. But yes, 10 minutes left. I'm going to run out of time. Anyway, please don't shoot people on live video, especially not this one. Yes, Brexit. Someone said Brexit. I'll talk about Brexit. I've been talking about Brexit a little bit on Facebook today because I'm finding it intellectually interesting in spite of the fact that someone got murdered over it, which wasn't cool, of course. This is a very interesting article from The Guardian, kind of a left-wing paper in the UK, by a Labour activist talking about how much trouble they're having explaining to their own Labour supporters, working class people, that they should vote to remain in Europe. And it's kind of funny that it kind of highlights to me a real disconnect of communication between people who are just like in America. You have these kind of working class people who are feeling disenfranchised and ignored, and their life is getting tougher and tougher, and they feel like where Labour used to be the answer of giving them more time off and more social security and more and fighting the system to get those extra benefits. Labour's kind of defending a system that they blame for taking their freedoms and rights away. And they're blaming, again, not just immigration. Immigration is one of the big hot topics, obviously, and the fact that Britain's kind of ceded sovereignty or control over its own immigration to bureaucrats in Brussels, in the same way that in America, every state, immigration's controlled federally, and that's what Europe does. But nobody, that was never really signed off by anyone. That was just the government decided to do that without consulting, and that's why they're having this referendum. Among all the other things, of course, it's going to be economically devastating and so on. But the thing is, you have a lot of disgruntled people who want to disrupt, politics, and they want to use the referendum to do this. And that is, I think, the primary reason why you have people voting for Bernie Sanders, for Donald Trump, and why people are voting for leaving the EU. It's really interesting from the outside, and just observing how the traditional people who would capture that discontent and represent the disenfranchised are the ones who are now advocating for Europe, and they're finding that the people who usually vote for them are telling them to piss off. So it is interesting. There's been a really good debate actually happening on my Facebook page, which you can go and see, where some people have come in and have put the arguments both sides. Mata Gajinka is there and points out that we don't want to be ruled by unelected bureaucrats deciding pretty important things that affect our lives. As Europe is very bureaucratic, and a lot of things are controlled by bureaucrats there. But there again, what you get in exchange for that is you get basically freedom of movement. You can move around freely within Europe, and you can work anywhere in Europe. You can have cross-border relationships, live in other countries. Just the same way I can live in Australia. And these are all things which will mean that the continent will not go through this crazy nationalism and wars that it was in for like 100 or 200 years before, the European Economic Community was founded. So, yeah. So I understand. Again, I'm strictly looking at this from the outside in, and I just find it interesting to understand both sides and to understand what's going on. My very socialist British citizen sister is horrified and putting up petitions to abolish the referendum. But this is the thing. A lot of people think that British people are just not smart enough to vote in this election, or that but it's that attitude that people need to be patronised and aren't smart enough to make this decision that's pissing them off and is making them want to vote to leave. So I kind of see it. I think this is part of a global phenomenon. We haven't had the backlash in Japan just because we haven't had a receptacle for it, frankly. We haven't really had a politician here that's, there to capture that kind of discontent in the way that nationalist parties, are doing in America and Europe at the moment. But I think it's part of that broader phenomenon at the moment. And are they blaming the right people? Probably not. I mean, actually, everything that this activist says, and saying how all these people have got the wrong idea about what's causing their disenfranchisement, is probably right. But their phrasing, you're not going to persuade people by just saying that they're idiots, which is what they're doing. So, yeah, it's interesting, to me, I think something like this, something about ceding national sovereignty is something that, the Conservatives, and this is a hole that the Tories dug for themselves. They always criticised Labour for, it was on their watch that a lot of these freedoms were sort of, ceded to Europe. And they said, when we get in, we're going to do a referendum so people have a choice as to whether they want to do this or not. The idea being we'll do a referendum to get them, to undo all of these things. So they put themselves in an impossible position, and perhaps a referendum isn't the best way of doing these things. But the fact that the people of Britain were never consulted in the first place, is maybe a problem. So I don't know. Well, yeah, and Stephanie Rollinson's making an excellent point there as well. But there again, I mean, it's too extreme though, isn't it? I mean, at the same time, are people too stupid to have a say in something as fundamental and important as the existence of their country as a sovereign nation? Do you deny them a say in that, because they're not smart enough for it? I see a lot of people saying that. My sister says that. I have a problem with that. I find that patronising and offensive, and that makes me want to say, I can vote out. But at the same time, no question that leaving the EU would not be of benefit to Europe or the world or to Britain. It would just be a screw you vote, which is what I think a lot of Donald Trump votes are as well. I don't just find it an interesting phenomenon. We're kind of lucky in Japan. The most crazy right-wing guy is the prime minister, and he's relatively under control. So we don't have anything else. Anyway, I just find this interesting, and there's been a very interesting discussion there tonight. Good night, Andrea. Have a good night there. Thank you for joining. Here is a detailed map on the location of love hotels in Tokyo. Which wards of Tokyo have the most love hotels, and which love hotels have the most rooms. Kind of a love hotel ranking thing. That's kind of interesting if that's your thing. If you come to Tokyo and you have the opportunity, I mean, you don't get these in America or New Zealand or Australia, at least not in the same way. And there's something that's kind of unique, and Tokyo has some good ones. So yeah, somebody should make a YouTube channel about this as well if they're able to. I mean, I mean, Zach, you live in a Love Hotel neighborhood and you have too many women coming into your apartment. And you should do a Love Hotel channel. Seriously. You'd probably get enough subscribers to be able to use the space if you did that. Seriously, I mean, given the numbers that you were giving me, yeah, you'd be able to probably do a full tour. So just throwing that out there, just so you can see how it flows. But yes, okay, finally the happy hour. So I organised this happy hour last night, and I didn't know that the SMV was actually supporting remaining in the EU. That's interesting. So the happy hour, I organised the happy hour. We were aiming for, because it was like, why pay for food? Why pay? Because it's just, it's better than the crap you'd have at home. Never mind. If you don't want to, I'm just saying, you want to get 10,000 subscribers, that's a good way to get it. So anyway, with the YouTube event, what I wanted to do was I wanted to make sure that these YouTube parties that they have at the space, it's nice to go into the space and there's YouTube people there and so on, but I find I never get to really meet a lot of new people. Not the way that I want to. I don't get to have the conversations. When I'm meeting YouTubers one-on-one, I go out for lunch with them or grab a coffee with them and we talk about YouTube. We talk a lot about all sorts of things about YouTube. We talk cameras, we talk about monetization, we talk about, things that we have learned and tips and tricks and stuff like that. But when that's kind of what I want to get out of the happy hours, and we want to connect with Japanese creators and make friends and share information and this hobby that you can't really talk to people who don't do this about it, because it's something you have to be doing to know, and most people do it sort of on their own. Yeah, it's awesome to have these parties, but there's never really been the kind of networking and connection being made that I always wanted. So I had the chance to design an agenda for a happy hour, which I described on the last show, where I basically put people into groups and have people, kind of in these groups where they'd have to interact with each other. And I wanted to do it with like 35 people, but Google said make it more, make it like 45. In the end of the day, because of people who were like working and so on, who couldn't make it, and the reception closed at 6:30, so we had people who just couldn't get off work in time, and that was a shame, but it was kind of expected given that it was on a weekday. We had about 35 people come, which I think was actually a really good number, the number I was originally planning from an interaction perspective. And it was a really good party. It was really cool people. We pretty much got to meet and talk to pretty much everyone there. It was a lot of fun. I got to, I talked as little as possible. Originally we got out all the sort of most fun toys to play with. That is a Ricoh Theta. We had the Kodak 360 cameras, the steady cams, all that sort of stuff. Let people play with them while drinking alcohol for the first hour, and then for the second hour, I actually set up sort of a group discussion thing about, what are features that you want on YouTube, because YouTube staff were there, including the very high up people in YouTube were there. And so this was a good chance to say, what do we like about YouTube? What do we want to see more of? What features do we want to see? And actually I learned about some features. I didn't know that you could put surveys into the cards feature of YouTube, for example, and that a guy who had used that and had really looked at the analytics on it and said it's crazy, it boosts the analytics like you wouldn't believe, like the engagement. And I learned stuff from the people who were there, so that was really awesome. And there were lots of very cool people, and it was a lot of fun. I'm going to be hosting some more. I think some of the takeaways I'm going to take from this, I will try to do the next one when I get to do one, maybe on a weekend, so people are not scrambling so much. There are, James O'Hara, they're actually, I think there is one. Actually, no, there are two. There are two black people there. I think the fact that you didn't see them, I think, makes you racist. So yeah, it was a good attending thing. But we'll probably try to. I'll look at making maybe a little bit less rushed. It's 3 hours, but it was pretty full. But there again, I thought it was pretty enjoyable. Theodore, when am I going to do a lunch meetup for regular people? I've been flat out, partly with the planning for this and partly with the other crazy stuff in my life that I kind of can't talk about, but I do want to. I will do one, and thank you for reminding. And Theodore, keep reminding me each week if I don't announce something, because that's something I should set up actually. And that is it. You can check out more photos of the event on Facebook. I'd love to hear from the people who were there, what they thought about it, and get feedback. I'm going to collect the feedback forms as well. I'm going to go and talk with Google about that maybe tomorrow. Thanks to everyone who came. I thought it went really, really well, and yeah, it was. I thought it was cool. Anyway, it achieved what I wanted it to achieve, which is getting people who would not normally talk to each other at a party like this to talk to each other. So I was pretty happy with that. Comments are slightly distracting, but there we go. It is exactly 1 hour, and I've just finished the show, so that is good. The thing I kind of wanted to mention, and this is some advice for probably about 50% of people doing YouTube. One very lucky thing about this whole process is that I've got to spend a bit of time, talking, exchanging philosophies with people at Google and YouTube, and kind of high up people there as well. And I must admit, there's kind of a recurring theme. I've been talking various things. I've been talking with people from the various MCNs lately, partly connected with the summer party, with Google people, with people who kind of look at doing YouTube in kind of a very professional sort of a way. And there is a consistent theme that comes up from all of these people whenever you talk with them about dealing with creators, and that is that the great thing about YouTube is, and what I know makes YouTube so popular, is that it sells this idea that basically, any young, enthusiastic, person can, on their own, without having to go work for a company or compromise their lives and become a sellout like their dads and granddads, can just go out and just kind of be who they are and, make a living or make great videos and get followers and, and be successful. And I get that, and that is no question, that's the appeal, and that's, and it's something which naturally is a draw, particularly for a lot of young people. And a lot of the channels in Japan, in going to some of the very big channels actually, there is something which comes across. There is a real big gap between the people who understand how to separate how they behave when they're making videos for their channel, and how they behave as an online sort of persona for their branding and their channel and so on, and how people behave when they should be thinking business. When you're talking to MCNs or when you're talking to people from Google and so on, you should understand that these are people who you should be looking to be on good terms with, simply because, for things that maybe don't matter so much, but for small things, when you need a hand later on, they remember who was a dick to them, and or who was acting immaturely, and who acted maturely and was courteous and was professional. And this is even at the very top. It's funny, you do hear about, this person's great, this person comes, he's all business, and he's very organized and systematic and, respectful. And you do hear, these guys, they came in, and this guy, I said hello, and I was interested to, give this person a chance to introduce or whatever, and they blew me off. Or this guy came and just unloaded complaining at me, like a diatribe, or sent me a mail with all these sort of complaints. So you hear these things, and this is, and I'm like I say, I'm talking like a high percentage of YouTubers, but the kids, those people who really go to the top and get what they need to sort of really have a life around this, they don't get there by always acting like the way that they act in their videos. And it's something that maybe because a lot of these people have never had, they've never compromised, they've never had to do business on their own before, they don't have agents. It's something I guess maybe it's hard to learn. I guess some people intuitively have it, or some people have actually worked really hard for a living first, and they understand the importance of building networks and relationships. It's something that kind of came across, and even at these parties, you don't have to. They call it social events, but it's really, you should be very aware of the networking value and of the aware of kind of being self-aware about how you're presenting yourself at these things. The thing is, if you're just a normal, courteous, interested guy, these things can go a long, long way. Just some general advice with being successful on this that I've heard from multiple people recently is just, be professional and be courteous around these things, and it'll go a long way. That's part of why I'm hosting these things. It's just, you just be polite, and and they'll be nice to them, and they'll be nice to you. And if you're not nice to them, they'll just kind of be weird about it. So so just bear that sort of thing in mind, little thought, and that's not just YouTube, really, that's life. It's part of growing up, frankly. But it's an interesting theme. I had some really interesting discussions about that recently. That's the end of the show. I'm not going to pick music because I'm out of time. It's been great seeing all of you guys tonight, and I hope that you guys are all doing well. I'm going to see you next week. I might be able to talk about more stuff in the future, but all good for now. The party was awesome, and I'll let you know when we start planning the next one. And indeed, the next step is going to be the September 3rd summer party, plus Phoenix 787 and others are organising, I believe, a July 17 beach party, which also looks like it's going to be pretty cool. So keep an eye out for information about that. I will put that information up here as it becomes available. And see you guys later. Man, it is 29.6 degrees. Sorry, I don't do Fahrenheit. It is hot, so I'm going to turn on the air conditioning, which will make an enormous noise. And I'll go to sleep. Have a good week, everybody, and see you next week. Peace. Boom, out. You have to click a second time saying, do I really want to end the stream? I'm going to click a second time. Do I really want to end it? I won't be able to restart. Yeah, I do want to end.